So, the Supreme Court blocks the vaccine mandate ish. So, I'm pretty sure all of you know um, this past week, the vaccine mandate was blocked by the Supreme Court, but it wasn't completely blocked, it was semi blocked. Um, there was a specific part of it that was allowed to stand. Now, I'm going to read an article from scotusblog.com. I actually read the entire ruling. You can go to the Supreme Court's website and you can actually get the document that covers all of the court proceedings, the dissent from the different Supreme Court justices across the different cases. So there were several cases actually that were being heard in the Supreme Court. And I didn't realize this. I don't really understand how the Supreme Court works. And I guess there were several circuit courts that brought cases before the Supreme Court, and they weren't all the same case. Another thing I didn't realize, I guess I should have. But in my lifetime, I'll be honest with you, I never had or felt the need to pay attention to what was going on in the Supreme Court. But I'm telling you right now, at least for me, that's probably going to change. I think I have a growing desire now to pay more attention to what's going on across several factions of our government. So I'm going to get into this article from scotusblog.com. I'm going to read it, a little bit of commentary. It's kind of going to go over what happened. I think this site probably had one of the best articles going over the different things that happened. Now, I don't know if this blog site leans left or right. For this reason, like I said, I read through the entire legal brief. I think it's like 23 pages. Very boring, very mundane. A lot of things I don't understand. I don't know legal terms. I had to look some stuff up. Like there's a term called per curiam, I think is what it is. And it's pretty much when there's a ruling in the court that is not ruled by a specific judge, but the entire body of that court, if I understand that correctly. A lot of things I didn't know. So we're going to get into this article and see what's said. And you can make your own decision on what you think one way or another. I will say this. Looking at the ruling on allowing healthcare workers to fall under this vaccine mandate, the unfortunate thing is, just from a novice point of view, looking at the way the case was argued, I hate to say this, but it looks like the judgment rendered was sound legal judgment according to legal precedent that was already set, and it's unfortunate. Now, I don't think it's right, and I think it can definitely still, in my opinion, be challenged and overturned, but that's a whole nother argument for a whole nother day. So let's get to this article. All right, so like I said, scotusblog.com. I've heard of this website before, but I've never myself gone to this website, looked anything up. So this was a first for me, going to this website this time. So anyway, with COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations reaching a new record high as a result of the Omicron variant, the Supreme Court on Thursday put the Biden administration's vaccine or test mandate for large employers on hold, while litigation over its legality continues in the lower courts. Over a dissent from the court's 3 liberal justices, the court ruled that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration exceeded its power in issuing the mandate. Congress may have given OSHA the power to regulate workplace dangers, the court explained, but it has not given that agency the power to regulate public health more broadly. At the same time, the justices, by a vote of 5-4, granted the administration's request to be allowed to temporarily enforce a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers at facilities that receive federal funding. Now, when I was reading through the legal brief, this is kind of what I took from that. What I think will probably happen is there's probably going to be many hospitals and healthcare facilities pop up as a result of this that do not take federal funds. And I personally think that that would probably be wise. Let me resize my screen here because I don't have everything on screen. But like I said, I personally think that that would probably be wise, because the more you allow the government to come in to a business, man, it just seems like the more problems you incur. This doesn't seem to work out in favor of the working class people. I think government overreach definitely tends to just produce more government bureaucracy. And we definitely see that happening in this case. But basically, if you read through the legal brief, what was said is the Director of Health and Human Services has the authority to, I'm trying to remember exactly how it was said. Like I said, it was a long legal brief. But the Director of Health and Human Services regulates the safety protocols for hospitals that accept Medicare and Medicaid patients. And in order to receive Medicare and Medicaid patients, you abide by that safety standard and you receive federal funding. So this is what I see happening. Just like you see in the technology space, I think you're going to see alternative means pop up, right? Where are all these healthcare workers going to go that lost their job? I don't think they're just going to change career fields. I don't think they're just going to go into something else haphazardly. These people have trained, have gone to school, have spent lifetimes in this field. There's doctors that have spent countless hours studying to become doctors. There's nurses that have spent countless hours studying to become nurses, and different aspects of the healthcare field, not just nurses and doctors. There's all kind of things that surround that. I'm not going to get into all of it. But anyway, where are these people going to go? There's going to be so what is happening is the government is in some ways creating a parallel market and creating an opportunity, actually, right? If some investors were to get together, find some land, break ground, build a new hospital, and say, okay, we're not accepting any federal funds at this hospital. We're not accepting any Medicare or Medicaid patients at all. We don't want them because we don't want to fall under this vaccine mandate. I think that's very possible and even likely to happen, in my personal opinion. And then what you're going to have happen, and this is just my opinion. I'm a veteran, former service member. I know exactly how the government works internally. I've been in that space for many years. Government is not efficient. A lot of people think government work and government entities are the most efficient. I'm here to tell you, they're the most backwards. There is more waste in government work and government contracts than you would ever know or realize. The government is not efficient in the way it does things, and it never does things better than the civilian market. An example of that is Elon Musk. Now, I know Elon Musk has accepted government grants and money. That's a whole nother argument. Bottom line is, he runs a private company and he is advancing space exploration at a price point that's significantly reduced off of what it would have cost NASA. And his technology is better. Just keeping it real. His technology is way better. You don't have to like Elon Musk. This is not about whether he's good, bad, indifferent. That argument is irrelevant to this point. What he's doing is definitely better and more efficient than the way it would be done by NASA. So with that said, when you back up from that and you think about the hospitals that will accept Medicare, Medicaid, and the regulations and different things they will fall under, and the hospitals that will form that will be like, you know what? Nah, we're not accepting those patients. What you're going to have is you're going to have two different levels of care. You're going to have the government level of care, and then you're going to have the civilian sector level of care void of the government, and it will be better. I'm telling you, go to a VA, talk to any veteran that uses the VA and ask them how their care is versus somebody that goes to a regular hospital and receives regular care. It's not the same. It's not the same at all. I'm telling you. All right. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Go back to the page I was on. Okay. The order that the justices issued on Thursday afternoon were the latest chapter in the fast-moving vaccine disputes after the cases came to the Supreme Court in December on an emergency basis. The justices opted to expedite the case's oral arguments on whether the mandate can remain in place while challenges proceed in the lower courts. The court heard nearly 4 hours of arguments. I listened to some of this, and the one thing I want to say is I am very shocked at the lack of legal expertise by some of our Supreme Court justices. Very shocked. Now, I'm not a legal expert by far. I've listened to a bunch of lawyers and other legal experts talk about some of the things that were said, some of the things that weren't said, and some of our justices, wow, need to be replaced. Let's just say that. I'm not, it's pretty crazy. Okay. On the policies on January 7th, and issued a pair of unsigned opinions just 6 days later. So, let's see. Screen is going crazy on me. Okay, the OSHA case. I'm trying to get my screen in order. Screen is acting funny on me. All right, there we go. All right, the OSHA case. Move this over. OSHA issued the vaccine or test mandate at the center of National Federation of Independent Businesses versus the Department of Labor. In November, it required all employers with 100 or more employees, roughly 2/3 of the private sector, to compel those employees to either be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 or to be tested weekly and wear masks at work. The government expected the mandate to cover 84 million workers. Businesses, states, and nonprofits went to court to challenge the mandate, and on Thursday, the Supreme Court granted their request to put it on hold, describing the mandate as a significant encroachment into the lives and health of a vast number of employees. The court emphasized that Congress must speak clearly if it intends to give a federal agency the authority to exercise powers of vast economic and political significance. So one of the big arguments was that Congress never delegated these powers to OSHA. Now, if you don't understand or realize or know how the government works, Congress are the ones that make laws. They draft bills that are to become laws. It's sent through, it gets to the president's desk, he signs it into law or he vetoes it, right? This is our system of checks and balances. If somebody challenges the constitutionality of that law, then it goes to the Supreme Court to be heard. This is the checks and balance. And when the arguments are heard, the Supreme Court makes a decision, yay or nay, whether this thing is constitutional. So we still have the protection of the U.S. Constitution. at least for now. How long that's going to stand, that remains to be seen. Okay. Businesses, states, and nonprofits went to court to challenge the mandate, and on Thursday, the Supreme Court granted their request. I think I read that. Significant, yeah, encroachment. Okay, so in the case, the court continues. Congress did not. In this case, the court continues. Congress did not. Continuing from the previous paragraph. It gave the Department of Labor the power to establish safety standards for the workplace rather than broad public health measures. Although COVID-19 is a risk that occurs in many workplaces, the court acknowledged it isn't a risk that workers encounter simply by virtue of being at work. COVID-19 spreads virtually anywhere that people gather, permitting OSHA to regulate the hazards of daily life simply because most Americans have jobs and face those same risks while on the clock would significantly expand OSHA's regulatory authority without clear congressional authorization. The court concluded, and indeed, the court noted the fact that OSHA has never adopted a similar regulation is a telling indication that the vaccine or test mandates exceeds the agency's power. Pretty much what they're telling you, and like I said, you can read through the legal brief, is on the Supreme Court's website. Pretty much what they're telling you is they, and everyone knew this, the Biden administration attempted to go around Congress, to skirt Congress, to bypass the working structure of the US government according to the Constitution, and really establish dictatorial powers. It's funny that everybody, and I'm not here to get into the Biden versus Trump thing, but it's funny everybody blamed Trump for being a dictator, and he never did nothing like this. The court then turned briefly to each side's description of the effect of the policy. The challengers, the court observed, contend that the mandate would cost the states and employees billions of dollars and would prompt hundreds of thousands of employees to quit. The Biden administration, on the other hand, argued that the mandate would save over 6,500 lives and prevent hundreds of thousands of hospitalizations. But in the end, the court posited other government actors who are politically accountable must weigh such trade-offs rather than the justices. This is where I don't really like the way the Supreme Court goes. They kind of make an attempt to skirt their responsibility, right? You are the body that decides whether something is constitutional or not. That's why we bring this before you. Is this constitutional or not? Make a decision. We have too many Supreme Court justices that really don't have a backbone. They're afraid to make a decision. I'll say that Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito are probably the two last men standing. I'm not really impressed with Kavanaugh or Amy Coney Barrett at all. I'm not really impressed with Roberts. And then you have Sotomayor, and I don't know why I can't remember names offhand, but you get my point. I'm not really impressed with a lot of these people. Definitely not impressed with Chief Justice Roberts at all. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think these people are afraid to do their jobs. Justice Stephen, that's it, who it is, Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan penned a rare joint dissent in which they complain that employees, more than any others, have little control and therefore little capacity to mitigate risk and the spread of COVID-19. The majority ruling, they contended, stymies, the federal government's ability to counter the unparalleled threat that COVID-19 poses to our nation's workers. Here's the thing, and this is why I don't like the way they argued this, and I didn't listen to all of the oral arguments, so I don't know if anyone brought up this point, There's risk with anything. There's risk with taking vaccines. Every vaccine has a risk, right? And most vaccines even have the risk of death. So, in effect, what these three justices are saying is they want some government organization to have the power to decide for you what risk you should take. And that's where I have a problem. If vaccines have adverse events and risk, then that should be up to you to decide what risk you're willing to take, not up to some government bureaucracy. And to me, that would violate the very core principle of our Declaration of Independence: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's something that you have to decide, not some government body. That was the whole purpose of the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. I got another video on that. Go watch that. The backdrop of the U.S. Constitution being the Declaration of Independence, giving you a frame by where to view it. The dissenters tackled the same question that was at the heart of the concurring opinion filed by Justice Neil Gorsuch and joined by Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, who should decide how to respond to the pandemic. For Gorsuch, the answer is clear: the states and Congress. The dissenters reached a very different conclusion. OSHA, with its expertise in workplace safety and its status as a politically accountable government agency, is better suited to make decisions about how to protect workers from COVID-19 than a court lacking any knowledge of how to safeguard workplace and insulated from responsibility of any danger to it causes. Okay, I don't know why my browser is going crazy when I'm trying to see. Let me see. Where do I want to go? Where was I at? Okay, the vaccine mandate will remain on hold while the challenges to its legality continue in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. Again, this is where I take issue with the Supreme Court. I think many Supreme Court justices, in my opinion, are kind of spineless. That's honestly what I think. Okay, in Biden versus Missouri, the justices agreed to allow the Biden administration to enforce nationwide a rule that requires nearly all healthcare workers at facilities that participate. Listen to this, and this is why I made the statement I made earlier. In facilities, that participate in the Medicare and Medicaid program to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 unless, now here's another thing, unless they qualify for medical or religious exemptions. And when you read the legal brief, it states in that legal brief that they're required to allow for religious and medical exemptions. And I can tell you for a fact, I know someone personally, my friend's wife was fired from a hospital she works at, and they denied her religious exemption. That violates this Supreme Court ruling. Anyway, that's a whole nother argument. All of this is being done on purpose. All right. The Department of Health and Human Services issued the rule, which applies to more than 10 million workers, in November. But two federal district courts in Missouri and Louisiana put the rule on hold in roughly half the states. In an unsigned opinion, the court emphasized that a key responsibility of the Department of Health and Human Services is to ensure that healthcare providers who care for Medicare and Medicaid patients protect their patients' health and safety. To do so, HHS has long required those providers to comply with a variety of conditions if they want to receive Medicare and Medicaid funding. So this is why I am not in favor of many government agencies because this is what they do. They use government bureaucracy to skirt the US Constitution, to skirt your rights. It's like we're going to violate the Constitution ish without actually violating it. It's just this rule that if you want this, you have to do this. I say, and this is unfortunate. This is really unfortunate. I say hospitals should just say, okay, bump it. Now, I know this will be a lot of money and a lot of loss. They should just say, yeah, we're not taking the government funding. We're not seeing Medicare and Medicaid patients find somewhere else to go, kick rocks. Because COVID-19 is a highly contagious, dangerous, and especially for Medicare and Medicaid patients, deadly diseases, HHS determined that a vaccine mandate was necessary to protect patients because it would decrease the chances that healthcare workers would both contract the virus and pass it on to their patients. Such a mandate, the court wrote, fits neatly within the power given to the HHS by Congress. And this is why I say I don't like this ruling, but from a novice perspective, it seems legally sound. I don't like it, but it seems legally sound. Not that it can't be challenged. I think it can be challenged, and I think it should be. Justice Clarence Thomas filed a dissenting opinion that was joined by Alito, Gorsuch, and Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Thomas claimed that the Biden administration proposes to find virtually unlimited vaccination power over millions of healthcare workers and what he described as a hodgepodge of statutes in definitional provisions, a saving clause, and a provision regarding long-term care facilities, sanitation procedures. The Biden administration had not adequately explained, as far as Thomas was concerned, why Congress would have given HHS such power in relatively minor provisions. And indeed, Thomas noted, if Congress had wanted to give HHS the power to impose a vaccine mandate, it would have done what it has done elsewhere, specifically authorize one. So he's saying they never authorized this. So what's the deal? And as I said, this is a big problem. This is a big problem. I wanted to read, I'm going to see if I can go to my downloads, because I wanted to read something that was actually said by Justice Alito. It was a comment in this legal brief, and I thought it was a perfect comment that summed up exactly what I thought, and anybody with a working brain thinks about what's happening. So this is what Justice Alito said. Let me see. Let me get to the beginning of his comment because it's really good. Healthcare workers. Okay. He says, today's decision will ripple through the administrative agency's future decision making. The executive branch already touches nearly every aspect of Americans' lives, and that's a problem, in my opinion. In concluding that CMS had good cause to avoid notice and comment rulemaking, the court shifts the presumption against compliance with procedural strictures from the unelected agency to the people they regulate. Neither CMS nor court articulates a limiting principle for why, after an unexplained and unjustified delay, an agency can regulate first and listen later, and then put more than 10 million healthcare workers to the choice of their jobs or, listen to what he says, an irreversible medical treatment. If these bureaucrats are given this authority, what stops them from saying in the future, oh, children with Down syndrome are a burden on society, and we need to euthanize them because they're a drag, they're causing a problem, they're taking up extra air, their carbon footprint, they don't have any purpose, they can't do anything. What about invalids? Oh my goodness, we have to get rid of these people, they're not helping us. As crazy as that sounds, and as crackpot as that sounds, if you allow these bureaucrats to have this authority, that is the only place that any of this stuff leads to.